We have a great show for you today. First, we're going to review all the new features Tesla's new revised Model Y has that sets it up for robotaxi. Features like a self-cleaning side repeater camera, a new front bumper camera with 180 degrees of view, upcoming 7-seater Model Y, automatic adaptive driving beams, and automatic prevention of door opening accidents. Second, we'll watch an interview of Uber's CEO as he explains their strategy for the future of autonomous vehicles. We'll then do a deeper dive on the Tesla versus Uber debate. Third, Tesla Asia just announced that the first Megapack has rolled off the production line of the new Shanghai Megapack factory. And finally, we have an interesting job opening for a Tesla Bot Production Supervisor who's going to be managing 50 production associates. That's a lot of people, which means a lot of bots. We've got Hans Nelson joining us today, and we're going to have him tell us how it is that Tesla's really setting themselves up for robotaxi in more ways than anybody realizes. Thank you so much, Hans.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.
A lot of this information came out in the last few days. This is from this video of this interview of Jay Leno with Franz and Lars. Thank you guys for that. And they revealed quite a number of new features. And I just want to collect the ones that I think are associated with robotaxi, that Tesla's cars, especially this new revised Model Y. The first one is, did you realize that the side repeater cameras are self-cleaning? But they do it in such a unique way that it's just the way that the way it's shaped. It allows it to do this. Let's listen to what Lars says.
Similarly, we got this little lip here on the edge of the side repeater. That's actually to self-clean the camera.
Okay.
So it creates an eddy current in the air. It comes up and it flows over and it cleans that camera and makes sure that there's no water getting on the camera there.
Yeah, so that's the first feature. Any quick thoughts on that one?
Yeah, just so for people who don't understand what an eddy current is, like they're creating turbulent airflow that sucks around the side of that camera and swirls right there in front of the camera. I'm assuming, that's going to work different at different speeds. But this is a way for them to, like, you don't have to have a heater. You don't have to have a little wiper. Like, it's a creative way for them to try and keep that camera working and visible. And I'm sure they've done extensive testing, and it's all just about getting the shape exactly perfect so that this naturally happens while you're driving. It's a fun, brilliant engineering solution to that problem. It's cool to see them attacking that problem in that way. Cause I think, a lot of people's first instinct on how to solve that problem are going to be to add parts. And Elon's like, no, you don't get to add a part. Just solve it.
Yeah.
The best part is no part.
I think the most important feature is that today the Tesla cars are able to tell you if the camera is occluded or not, and it warns you on the app that you need to have it cleaned or not. Again, sounds like a simple feature, but these are features that every single robotaxi company has to have, and show me if they've done it yet or not. They add up, right? That's one example. So now with the other one is we've got them explaining that they have in the new Model Ys a new front bumper camera on the front model. And Pete Bannon says it has a 180-degree field of view. So they finally have added
This
that.
car comes with the Autopilot 4. It includes a much higher performance Autopilot computer, so new cameras all around the car. It also has a fascia camera down here. It's a 180-degree field of view, so we can see objects coming from either side of the car.
All of this combines to hopefully never get you into an accident. But if you do, you're protected by the best passive safety system on the market, 5-star ratings overall.
Yeah, they finally added the front camera. Yeah.
Yes, but we've also heard that that's only for the cars like the Model Y or the Cybertruck, like that have taller front ends and that you can't see down low. And so just because it has a 180-degree field of view does not necessarily mean that it's able to look very far at the edges of that 180 degrees to provide, Chuck is going to be interested in that specifically because maybe it can add some extra data for your high-speed cross traffic for the Chuck's left turn type situations. That's possible. I wouldn't bet on those bumper cameras being a huge help in that specific scenario yet. Could be wrong. But I think this is more about actually looking down at the ground in front of you and then right here next to you for more like parking type situations than it is for super use for than it is for being useful in actually driving at high speed, or
Gotcha.
not
Yeah.
just high speeds, but being able to accurately track high speed cross traffic at the
Mhm.
edges of its field of view. I think that would be pretty.
Mm. Okay.
It would be
We'll
pretty
see.
incredible if they could do that with that
Yeah.
camera positioned in that place. I'll just say that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that. I assumed that can help with that. We'll see. So
It
then we've
might.
got, yeah, this is a new Model Y 7-seater that's coming. And of course, there's also the refreshed performance version. I just thought that maybe the 7Y seater, not only is it obviously a demanded, lots of demand for that, but it sets itself for another version of bigger car for robotaxi. Let's listen to what he said about that.
Okay.
It's actually, we're starting with the launch edition, and then all of the other variants, the dual motor base edition, rear wheel drive, performance, the 7-seater options, those will come later in the year.
And this is about what, 46,000?
So yeah, the base price of launch edition is $46,990, but we get all the bells and whistles, including everything. It's $59,990 to start, and then we'll,
Yeah, but that's with dual motor.
Dual motor in launch edition is 455 horsepower,
All right.
430 foot-pounds of torque. The base dual motor is 410 horsepower, but that's like, it's not just horsepower, it's the torque that matters, and we get that power straight off the line.
Yeah. Thoughts on the 7-seater?
Yeah, I mean, definitely provides you with a little bit of extra space, like you said, for a robotaxi application. But also to Lars's point, like they're going to do all of the different variations of the Model Y like the only new refresh Model Y that you can order today is the launch edition. If you want any of the other variations, whether it's 7 seats or single motor, all the different variations that exist of the Model Y, they will come with a refresh version in the not too distant future. But we've got to ramp up and expand to those other lines. And there's going to be definitely applications, even for I think I would be more interested in the fact that it would be a single motor, potentially 7-seat Model Y for a robotaxi application,
Right.
than just having the 7 seats. Like, can we have a smaller battery pack? Can we get down to single motor? Can we reduce the cost of this platform if it's going to be something that gets added to the Tesla owned and operated robotaxi fleet?
Yeah. And then I'm not sure if this one is sets it up for a robotaxi, but Tesla's new Model Y has these matrix LED and LED lights, and in a couple months, Tesla will introduce automatic adaptive driving beams. When cars are coming at you, the lights will turn off to the oncoming traffic so they don't get blinded. And in fact, don't they not only just turn off, but they actually even change direction of where it's focused on. Let's listen to what they said about it.
Here.
Right.
So it is a couple inches lower, but it's still well within the requirements.
Okay.
Cool thing about the headlights, they're matrix style headlights, so they have the ability to change their, their beam pattern. And we're going to launch in a couple of months, right after we start delivering automatic adaptive driving beams. So first in the US, when other cars are coming at you, the lights will turn off to the oncoming traffic so they don't get blinded.
Yeah, because, I know.
What do you think about that? Is that helpful for robotaxi or just not? Not
Well,
really?
I think it's super helpful for roads in general. And I know that other drivers who are going to be driving around, at some point will be flooding the roads with cybercabs or robotaxis as Model Y, Model 3, whatever. And as there are more and more of these cars on the road, it's very nice if you're driving towards a car and it's able to see very well, but it's not blinding you with super high lights. And everyone who's driven, head on to a car that has LED headlights knows how bright LED headlights are. And this allows them, so they're literally splitting the beams so it'll be dark right where the oncoming car is in kind of a vertical line, but then there'll be light on either side of that car. And it's not just oncoming cars, it's also cars that you're following. So you don't have to be blinding the car in front of you right in their rear view mirrors, but you can still see everything very well. And so the driving environment's going to be great. Does it actually help with the robotaxi service operating more effectively? That I'm not sure. It's just like a general overall quality of life thing. Well, I would say not having blinded drivers around you does help your safety.
Yeah.
And so, I think there's, at least a marginal improvement to the safety of the overall robotaxi fleet by being a more thoughtful or considerate driver by not blinding everyone around you.
And then the other feature that Tesla has
Well,
is this. Mhm.
let me add, I guess, one other thing to that. It also means you can drive with high beams pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
That in situations where you would have had to put low beams, now you can have high beams and you can increase your
And
overall visibility
yeah, that's a
all
good point.
around. And so you can actually see better,
Mhm. I wonder if fog
especially
as
in
well,
dark. Yeah.
rain, yeah, they'll be able to see better, and that helps make sure there's
Yes.
less accidents. So the other feature that Tesla has now is this ability to prevent the door opening accidents. So you know how you just automatically park your car and you open the door, and then there's a bike, something's going to come. This now prevents it. This Tesla said this. This person said, "My Tesla just prevented me from opening the door when a car was driving by. Such an awesome safety feature." It says door opening prevented. It's because it's got the camera, so it knows something's coming. And then you try to open the door, else it won't let you for now. You might have to do it twice or something to get through. Tesla said, "New Model 3 and Y help avoid dooring accidents by preventing initial door opening if someone is approaching in your blind spot." And I just thought, okay, that's another feature. Just you're in robotaxi, you're just sitting there, and now it's time for you to get out. So you open the door and get out. You don't have the ability to, necessarily be looking at mirrors or anything like that. So this helps prevent those kind of accidents. So I thought it was cool.
Definitely cool all around for both for the robotaxi service and not. And it's better,
bicycles.
You don't want your door smashed. Whoever's going to smash your door doesn't want to smash into your door either. So like this is a win-win-win, and it's all doable. Just, it's like the ability is there if you have software that's smart enough to take advantage of it, and they keep finding, new ways to use their sensors, their computers to provide more value to customers. And it's just awesome to see them roll something out like this.
Okay.
And why has no other car company ever rolled out this feature before? It just shows you
cameras. Yeah.
The culture at Tesla is just different than other companies, and it's great.
Yeah. So a lot of things that Tesla's doing has been planning for the future of getting to robotaxi. And that's one of my main points, is that you think that there's competitors, but they have to think through every little tiny thing. And then everybody thinks, oh, Uber is going to, get into it. Of course, now they know that Uber's not going to get a robotaxi themselves, but they're going to partner with a bunch of other robotaxis. Eventually, people say it's a commodity. Lots of car companies will just put their cars into Uber, maybe even Tesla. Let's do a deeper dive debate between Tesla versus Uber debate.
Before we do that, competition is coming 2.0.
Yeah. But before we do that, let's listen to Uber CEO. He was interviewed, and we'll watch what he says about, number one, their business is skyrocketing. They're still doing really, really well. But then he talks about the strategy for future of autonomous vehicles and how he thinks of it. And then what we'll do is we'll go into this the debate points one by one of is Uber really a competitor to Tesla or not? So yeah, this is Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi broke down the company's strong growth, 21% revenue jump, $7 billion in free cash flow, rising trip demand. And then let's listen to what he says here.
Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi joins us exclusively here at Post 9. Look, I'm going to start, Dara, with what I regard as being important, which is gross bookings. That's always been the number I measure you by. They seem to be pretty good, but maybe you can disabuse me of that.
I think they were pretty good. We actually saw acceleration. Usually as companies get bigger, they slow down growth. We saw acceleration in gross bookings, 21% on a constant currency basis. It was driven by trip acceleration too. Trips grew 18%, faster than last quarter. And really it was driven by audience. More and more people are coming to Uber on a monthly basis, over 170 million monthly active platform consumers, again, accelerating on a year-on-year basis. And we're able to grow the top line while growing the bottom line. Adjusted EBITDA of $1.8 billion, up 44%. For the past year, we threw off almost $7 billion of free cash flow. And we're putting it to work buying back stock aggressively as well.
Okay, and that's very important because people might say, wait a second, why are they doing that? The operating income looks like a big miss. But when you dig down the operating income, you realize that there is a very big legal issue to make it so that is not the metric that we should be focused on.
I think what we do is we try to estimate as best the legal reserves going forward. It's not a part of day-to-day operations. And again, I think the truth is in cash flow, so to speak. And the $7 billion of cash flow that we delivered on this last year is the biggest number ever, and we think it's going to continue to grow going forward.
Do you think, before I turn over to my colleagues, that there's still a belief, even though Waymo's doing 150,000 a week, which I'm still thinking is not all that big, that there is an existential threat from autonomous vehicles away from you, and that could be some sort of overhang where people are saying, I'm scared?
I think autonomous introduces both uncertainty and a huge opportunity for us. If we look at the U.S. market, for example, we think autonomous alone in the U.S. can be $1 trillion market. And the tech is definitely getting there, but the commercialization is going to be much more challenging, right? To be able to deliver autonomous at scale. For perspective, we're doing 33 million trips a day, right? Those are the kinds of scale that we operate at. And a bunch of stuff has to come together. First, the regulatory environment has to get there, right? And it's national regulation, state regulation, city regulation. It's going to take some time because regulators need to get comfortable with this new technology that's operating in the streets. Cost of a mistake is really high. Second, what you need is a superhuman safety record. The opportunity that you have with these robot drivers isn't just to be better than humans. They could be multiple times better than humans. And I think the industry should take that opportunity and increase the bar on safety appropriately as a result of this incredible opportunity. Third, you need to mass produce these cars affordably, right? It's not about 100 cars or 1,000 cars. You need hundreds of thousands of cars. That is going to take a while, and the OEM industry is definitely taking notice. They're investing. These vehicle platforms takes years to develop. Then, once you have the vehicles, you need to operate them on the ground. Fleet operations, it's a ground kind of game. We're very familiar with that. We already have fleets all over the world. And then you need really high utilization because the cars are expensive. You need to operate them at high utilization, both during peak times and during troughs as well.
Right.
The only way you bring all that together, this commercialization, is with Uber and the AV industry. It's going to take a while. As that time passes, you're going to see a lot of autonomous players coming in with these big transformer models, with the DeepSeek moment that we saw. The development of this technology is going to be cheaper and cheaper, but we think that with the safety promise and with a partnership like ours, we can build autonomous to be a very big business.
You obviously have thought a lot about it, but we are.
Okay. So that's his position. It's going to take a long time. Don't worry. Keep investing in Uber now. These cars will have to be made. The regulatory has to happen, but who's the fleet management? Pretty good. Interesting comments.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like a great investment case for Tesla, not Uber. I mean, the only value proposition that Uber brings to the table of any of the things that he mentioned there was the fleet management side of things. And he's just assuming that whoever is going to develop this is going to want to partner with Uber. I mean, when it comes to being able to scale up production of a fleet quickly, Tesla. When it comes to being able to have a system that is 10 times safer than a human, sounds like an advantage that like Elon has been razor sharp focused on for a decade. And they're likely to be the first to that, no one right now is going to argue that a Waymo is 10 times safer than a human. So that is a prize that has yet to be won by anyone. I think Tesla's in the best position to win that, at least outside of China. And then when it comes to, if you have the ability to turn on a service overnight that allows you to gather gobs of data because you have gobs of cars on the road that you can then provide to the regulators, like he's thinking this is going to take a long time to do all this stuff. I don't think it's going to take a long time for Tesla to have all the data that they need to convince regulators without any shadow of a doubt that these vehicles are 10 times safer than a human, and we are killing people by not getting it on the roads sooner rather than later. This is not a 5 to 10 year event. This is a 2 to 3 year event. And he's banking on this thing being slow rolled, and he's really betting his company on that fact. Um, yeah, and I just personally would not even come close to. I've never invested in Uber. I'm certainly not going to start now. But not financial advice. Do your own
Yeah.
research.
Okay, so Uber's financials is going up. Sale, rides is up, profitability is up, cash is up, everything's up.
Yeah.
And then
BlackBerry's record
Exactly.
year was
So was
after the iPhone launched.
same with Blockbuster. Yeah.
Yep.
They kept rising until anyways. Okay, so let's get back to Tesla and Uber. Uber is counting that eventually many automakers will all have autonomous robotaxi, and then therefore they'll need Uber to help with.
Well, that's
fleet
what all
management.
the super smart retarded analysts keep telling him. So of course he's got to believe that.
I agree with you. And then, but it's I think the question for me is whether Uber survives or doesn't survive. It's whether Tesla decides to partner with them or not. Simple as that. Tesla doesn't partner with them. Tesla does it on their own, city by city. They got their own app. They don't need this, and that's a discussion we can have. Do they need the the monthly users that Uber has? I don't think that matters, but let's debate that. So let's go through here line by line. This guy here did a great job of doing this. This guy's name is George Milburn. He said George, former Tesla leader here. Okay, these
Either
are my
George
thoughts.
or Jorge.
Jorge, yeah, thank you. These are my thoughts on the Tesla versus Uber debate. So we'll go through it line by line. First one is Uber's moat. Everybody kept saying Uber's got a moat. Uber's strength is having vehicle saturation in a given market. This guarantees that anytime and anywhere you will get picked up in single-digit minutes. All right. The scarce resource here is drivers on your app. Drivers can switch apps fairly easily, right? I know that. Every driver I've ever been to said that they look at both Lyft or Uber. Acquiring drivers for your platform is hard and expensive. That's absolutely true. They will choose the ecosystem with the highest total revenue, the most saturated player in a geography. Winner takes all. When you eliminate the need for drivers, the moat cracks wide open. So yeah, what is their moat?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of different things. One of them is they have I'm not going to call them moats, but they have some advantages. To their CEO's point, they do operate at scale. They operate in many, many geographies. They interface with many different state and local governments, national governments. So they've got quite a bit of infrastructure set up that helps with that. They do have, the ground game that he talked about of managing a fleet at scale. That's also hard and difficult, and that is something that they have an advantage of. Does that translate over specifically to robotaxis? There, I don't know, because when you're managing a fleet of drivers at scale who own their own cars, who clean their own cars, who do a lot of the things, that's a different type of ground game that you're managing at scale than an autonomous vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So now they are trialing this. They are partnering with companies like Waymo and anyone else who will make an autonomous vehicle to where they are getting some of that autonomous vehicle only exposure to how does this ground game need to change for autonomous vehicles, but it's not one that they're operating at scale. And so that is a little bit different. And then, yeah, like if the moat is really the moat that George, it probably is George since his last name is Milburn, I would guess, is talking about is that you want to be picked up in 2, 3, 4 minutes if possible. Mm-hmm. And that is achieved by having plenty of cars in the area who can come and pick you up. They need to be nearby, and they need to be not in use when you need them. So that takes saturation of the market with a sufficient number of vehicles. But it's not about the vehicles for Uber, it's about the drivers, whereas an autonomous vehicle, it's just about the cars. And if Tesla has the ability to turn on a service in a city where, now this is not where they're going to start, but eventually they'll get to the point where when they decide to offer it in a city, well, they're going to bring in some Tesla-owned vehicles and they're going to allow Tesla owners in the area to add their cars to the network. And so you have the ability overnight to go from 0 cars in a geography to 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. And this is one of the points that James Dalma has made many times. And, he's done an analysis where I think he looked at the city of Chicago and their ride hailing data. And he estimated that it only takes roughly 10,000 cars to provide the 2 to 3 minute pickup time at any point.
Especially if it's a robotaxi, because there's no deadhead, very much less deadhead miles. We're just sitting there. Yeah.
And so, 10,000 cars is not that many cars in a city. There are lots of cities where Tesla already has, and, Chicago's a big city. It's not, the size of New York or, some other cities necessarily, but it's big. And like the ability for Tesla to have 10,000 Teslas in a city like that, not a huge hurdle. Definitely not insurmountable. And, I think it would be harder for Uber to field 10,000 autonomous vehicles in Chicago and Tesla.
I was going to say that. So obviously Uber's moat is the drivers, but if you have a driver of this robotaxi, that's no moat. And then how does Waymo come in? They only have 700 cars, 1,000 cars maximum right now. How do they get to 10,000? So people think that they're the leader. Well, why do they only have
choose the human-driven car over the robotaxi when the human-driven version is 2, 3, 5 times more expensive?
Wait 5 minutes if I needed to wait instead of 2 minutes. We'll see, right? We'll see what happens. But okay, that's interesting convo. The other point that everybody keeps making is that, well, Uber's going to become a fleet manager. They'll take care of the cleaning. They'll take care of the management. This guy, George, makes a very good point. He says, Uber's physical operations, they don't have one. There is no physical operation. Its drivers do all the real world work. Uber's just a marketplace with payments and customer support via an app. They own no physical infrastructure, right? So that is absolutely true. So what Tesla's got is they've got their automated cleaning. But let's go through that. Actually, I think that's his third point here. Tesla operations here. Tesla has extensive experience running physical operations, making them ultra efficient and building the vertically integrated software to support them. They have plentiful real estate in all the markets. They have service centers, they have charging partners, they have charging stations, body shops, stores. Tesla has frontline teams that know how to run physical operations, from optimizing how to load trucks onto ships, how to run super high volume delivery operations with only a few staff. Formidably strong player in this aspect will be able to figure out physical operations of a robotaxi fleet. This was a really good point. Honestly, they already have the charging stations. They already have the service groups. They have these partners already. So if they needed, Tesla can go, hey, you have a body shop there. I already partner with you. Can you give me a little parking spot? And then I'll put in my automated cleaning there. They can sign deals so much faster than Uber because they have 0 physical locations anywhere.
How would Uber solve this problem? They would set up a marketplace. How would Tesla solve this problem? Well, they know like the literal ins and outs of everything. They can design whatever system needs to be set up, and they can incentivize whoever. Uber would be setting up a marketplace and they would be starting from scratch. Tesla would also they would have their expertise. They can set up a marketplace if that's the best way to solve the problem. And it would also be starting from scratch. So the question is, can Uber out execute and outscale Tesla in doing that? I know who my money's on.
Tesla might decide to have partners. They might do third party fleet managers because he's talked about it. Elon's talked about it. Then the question is, Uber going to be one of those third party fleet managers? Well, if they don't have a physical location, if they're not really set up for anything like this, it's not like they are set up for it. That's the point.
No,
maybe
Hertz would require a massive shift. Hertz would be in a better, because they already handle a lot of cleaning, fueling, charging,
car washing, exactly.
All
they've
those
got locations everywhere.
Exactly.
Okay. Here's another one: Tesla economics. Tesla's real estate is mostly sunk costs, right? So the real estate's already sunk costs. Tesla knows how to make cars cheaply at scale like no one else. They're also super cheap to run and generally low maintenance. They won't have to pay a middleman marketplace fee. They will charge on sites which are already profitable, right? They'll charge on the sites which are already profitable using service infrastructure that already exists. This is all such great points here. because if Uber is now becoming that place for other
Yeah.
automakers who have autonomy, well, then that automaker will have to pay them this. They will have to find their own charging sites. You know, do you think Tesla will allow you to charge on their site, but not the cleaning there? Competing with Tesla on cost will be almost impossible for any entrant, be it a middleman like Uber or a provider like Waymo. Even if you build the infrastructure that Tesla has, you'll never be able to amortize it like Tesla has because they're using it now and they're making money on it now for all these infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the final point. I don't think that they're going to be able to service all of their needs with existing sites. They can always share the
Right.
cost of expanded sites as they grow across other use cases. So that's true. But I
Mhm.
don't think like Tesla's
Mhm.
current real estate footprint is sufficient to fully service all of the cleaning, charging, and other fleet management operations that are going to be required when you're operating a fleet of millions of robo taxis at scale. So, but they definitely have a huge head start. So it doesn't really change the overall takeaway. Like I said at the very end, 100% agree with that. They're well ahead on, they've got a huge head start. They've got a lot of capacity already that they can unlock. They don't have to build from scratch. They can share costs. Like all those things are 100% correct.
It's really nice. Okay, reliability and resilience. The Achilles heel of Tesla's approach with current hardware is environmental resilience. Anyone who's driven a Tesla with FSD knows that on occasions, a sun glare or the camera occlusions, moisture, mud, snow will prevent the system from working. If you live in Phoenix, Texas, or California, this will mostly not be an issue, but in certain regions, it's highly problematic. Would you still choose a Tesla robotaxi even if you get stuck on 1% of all your trips? The problem is mechanical in nature and therefore probably solvable, but might require hardware changes. So he's giving a negative of what can happen. I just think that again, these Teslas do know that the car cameras are included. If they're added as part of the network, then they'll say, come to me first. Oh, you can't be part of the network, A, and then come to some cleaning area and we'll clean it and take care of it. At least it knows it's got an issue.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it is an issue. It's kind of an edge case issue that we'll have to work through. There could be hardware changes that need to be made, and maybe you just concentrate. Like Tesla's going to try some things. They're going to obviously we already have plenty of vehicles that are operating up north where it's snowy or that operate in environments where they have mud or rain or whatever a lot. And so we do have some data to go off of, but we don't have the experience data of operating a robotaxi network in that environment yet, but we're going to. And you can have extra capacity in your fleet to go pick up people. That's not a great customer experience, but you can get started and you can figure out, okay, how do I need to solve this problem ultimately? And then you can have modifications for future versions of the fleet that then get rolled out. And those are the ones that get deployed to those specific geographies. Or maybe it's something that you can retrofit on those cars.
It's
Who
so
knows?
cheap to retrofit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if the margins are so high for either a Tesla Cybercab or the customer owned Teslas, Tesla will
Yep.
say, "I will upgrade your hardware 3 into an AI 5 computer. It'll cost me $3,000. Come in, we'll do it for you for free." And I will upgrade all your cameras. Each of their $25 8 cameras around you, we're going to flip it around to these new cameras.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, that's a
no
huge
big deal.
possibility. The other thing that, this is not going to be a popular take, but I do think that there's probably going to be some legacy customer owned vehicles that
Yeah,
are not
participate. Yeah,
eligible to participate in certain regions. Like
right.
maybe your car absolutely could operate on the robotaxi network in Texas, but not in Minnesota. I don't know.
Right.
Like, I think it is a little bit
Yeah.
ambitious to think that every
Yeah.
customer owned Tesla can also operate on the Tesla network in every geography. That just may not end up being the case. But as a company overall, most vehicles will be able to operate in most geographies, and that's more than enough for the company to be wildly successful, and then to be able to handle the few situations where that's not the case.
And then he concludes, if Tesla follows a saturation strategy in each market that you were saying, each market they enter, and then squeeze out rivals via price, market is theirs to take. There may be some hiccups on the short term with reliability, robustness of their stack, but these will be ironed out in due course. If and when they solve this, then the potential is quite unbound for them dominating in this space. When Uber came in and first started rolling out their robotaxis, or their ride-hail service, they had to compete with taxis and they had to compete with Lyft. What did they do? Price war. How did they do it? They started to get a lot of investment and they just started to give. Remember the days when Uber was so cheap?
They just gave away VC dollars to customers, and
crazy
giant piles of cash
until they won the market. Until they gave in huge incentives to drivers to come in and overpaid them and so forth. And then now they're taking a lot of the stake, and the drivers got a lot less paid. And then now our price is equal to a friggin' taxi now. It's so upsetting that I have to pay the same price that I would back in the taxi days. It used to cost me $50 to go from an airport via taxi, a personal service taxi, by the way, a black car. And now it costs me $70 to use an Uber. And they killed a lot of these taxi guys, or they switched them over. So what Tesla comes in and they can completely just undercut because they've got the lowest price if they needed to. And if they truly wanted to, it can kill any Waymo that comes in, unless Waymo has tremendous amount of money backing them up again. And it's going to be another price war we'll see who survives. And it's the one with the highest profitability.
Well, you're only going to invest in a price war if you think there's a chance of you winning. And if you can't win in scale or quality or price, what chance is there for you to win? So why are you burning that cash? People will do it anyways. I would say the one kind of dark horse in all of this, in my mind, is, it is possible that there will be some competitors who do arise that have the ability to solve FSD at reasonable scale. It just seems to me like those competitors are going to be Chinese. So the question will be, in the markets that matter, are Chinese companies allowed to operate these autonomous vehicles? I think it's probably not super likely that the US is going to let a BYD or a Huawei or even a Zeekr, Waymo contracted but Chinese manufactured Zeekr operate in the United States. There's a lot of question marks around that, but we don't control the whole world. And Europe, there's lots of other markets that are also important. And so it's highly likely that could operate in Japan and potentially Europe and other areas in Asia. And Uber does operate in a lot of these other geographies as well. And so there may be kind of a path for them ex-US to do this type of partnership with other international players in other international markets. And, if they execute well on that, there's a possibility, if Tesla, it really just depends on how fast Tesla scales and expands into these other markets. And it'll come down to manufacturing capacity, really, at that stage. Who has enough manufacturing capacity to saturate markets in these kind of battleground regions of the world? And China's definitely going to be heavily invested in the technology. So I think that's really where you're going to see these head-to-head battles. And whether Uber is involved in those or not, that remains to be seen. But there absolutely will be at some point head-to-head battles of Chinese-made autonomous vehicles versus Teslas, and it'll be Uber versus Lyft all over again, but Tesla versus Chinese AVs, the competition will definitely be good for consumers, and it's going to be a wild, wild world.
Thank you so much, Hans. Appreciate that. That was fun. Good information. Follow Hans on his YouTube channel, Hans C. Nelson. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.